Have you been practicing your 16th notes? Hi, I'm Felipe Drago and welcome to Drago Drums. Yes, the previous lesson was about the 8th note, right? And how important it is. And most of the things we're ever going to play are going to be 8th notes. And that's why we need to pay a little bit more attention than we used to 16th notes, because we don't play them as often, but when we need to play them, they're kind of a tempo, medium to kind of fast tempo, and we usually struggle keeping those consistent 16th notes on the hi-hat or the right cymbal. And we only realize that when we have to play them. If you're rehearsing with a band, that's not a big problem because you can go through your 16th notes between the two rehearsals, and then on the next one you're going to be better. But sometimes you're playing live, somebody decides to come and jam with the band, and they start a 16th note groove straight away, and you're not prepared. So don't neglect. I'm going to be using some exercises from my book, Play the Drums. These exercises are on page 36 and 37. So 20 16th note grooves for you to practice. The most obvious one is playing 16th notes on the hi-hat and counting 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Playing the bass drum on 1 and 3 and the snare on 2 and 4. Okay, so, and the other thing is, start slow. This is practice, you're not playing live. This is practice. So if you're playing slow, that's not a problem at all. So let's start with exercise number 1. Then exercise 2, there's a little variation, playing the bass drum on 3 and 3 end. So again, start slow. Exercise number 2. Good cymbals. Even though I'm playing the snare, you're vibrating everywhere. Okay, right? So, and then we start creating variations. You know, you can start, if you're not you're looking at the book, if you don't have the book and you're not doing the exercises in the book, you start with the basics, with the bass drum and the snare drum on the beats or on the ends, and create variations with that. But now, because we're playing 16th notes on the hi-hat, it's good to put some 16th notes on the snare or on the bass drum, so you create more syncopated grooves, okay? And to start with that, let's start very basically with exercise number 7, where I play the snare on 2 and the A of 2. So 2 and A, okay? So exercise number 7. Good. So this is how you start creating variations a little bit more syncopated. Then, for example, exercise 14 in the book has more variations with 16th notes. Here we go. Okay, another variation, vary the bass and the snare. You can also vary the bass a little bit and create more syncopated rhythms based on the bass. For example, exercise number 16. and so on. If you don't have the book, you can create your own variations. If you do have the book, you can also create your own variations. You know, try always to go beyond what's on the page of any book. As for Unit 2, in Unit 3, the 16th notes in my book, there are some play-alongs, very, very, very slow play-alongs. These play-alongs are Cherry White songs that I slowed down. Actually, I didn't slow down. I asked the guys to re-record the songs very slow so I could put in the book, okay? So let's start with exercise number 1, playing the first song called Job in Mind.
1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and
As you can see, it is very slow on purpose, okay? There's another song from Cherry White called Riding Bikes that we adapted for the book. It's exercise number 10.
1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and
These are two of the songs that I put in the book. There are two versions with drums and without drums, so you can practice with the drums, so you're going to know if you're playing accurately or not, but both versions have the metronome. And then later you can even try some drum fills with the version without the drums. Like as I said in the other video, if you have one app that can slow down or speed up tracks, you can start very slow with these tracks, and then as you start playing better and better and better and better, you can speed them up. And the same things you can do with known songs. You can start playing known songs that are kind of fast for you. You can slow them down. For example, I'm going to play a classic tune by Bill Withers called Use Me. That might be a little bit too fast for you to play 16th notes, but if you have the app that slows the song down, you can play it no problem. The other thing is, first time you play the song, play with a very basic beat. Bass drum on 1, snare on 2, bass drum on 3, snare on 4. Because that will fit the song, no doubt, and you start progressing to the point where you can actually play the groove that's in the song. So let's try now Bill Withers' Use Me with the exercise 1 in the book.
My friends feel as they're appointed duty. They keep trying to tell me all you want to do is use me.
As you can tell, drummer James Gadsden plays a killer groove with 16th notes on the hi-hat, opening hi-hat, syncopation on the bass drum, but exercise 1 in the book fits perfectly for our purpose of developing consistent 16th notes on the hi-hat. And so far we've done one-handed 16th notes on the hi-hat. Now comes the other important beat of this lesson, which is playing 16th notes on the hi-hat hand to hand, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then comes another thing that's very important that sometimes people neglect, which is drum rudiments. In this case, is just a single stroke roll. But if you practice all the rudiments, this one is a piece of cake because you're playing a single stroke roll on the hi-hat. You're playing the snare on 2 and 4. The other thing that some people in the beginning don't realize is because you're alternating the hands, when you play the snare, you don't play the hi-hat. So the snare, it's by itself. So, 16th notes hand to hand on the hi-hat. Remember, rudiments. The more you practice the rudiments, the easier it will be for you to play this. This is just the single stroke roll, but if you're playing more advanced rudiments, the single stroke roll becomes piece of cake. So in my book, Play the Drums, on page 50, where's page 50? Here's page 50. I have some exercises applying the 16th note groove, the 16th note hi-hat, hand-to-hand hi-hat on the grooves, but obviously just 7 or 8 exercises you should apply to all 20 in Unit 3, okay? But start simple and slow. Bass drum on 1 and 3, snare drum on 2 and 4, and remember, when you play the snare drum, you don't play the hi-hat because you're alternating the hands. So exercise 1, this is how it goes. Okay, so consistency is the name of the game. So and then start creating more complicated stuff with the exercises that I have in the book. If you have the book, if you don't have the book, you can create your own exercises. But for example, exercise 7 on page 36, which is exercise 10 on page 50, I'm playing the snare drum on the A of 2. That's a left hand snare. So a little bit of coordination between the hi-hat and the snare drum. Now, another thing that's very important is when you syncopate the bass drum, playing on the A's and on the E's, the bass drum is going to fall in the opposite hand that is your strong hand. In my case, I'm right-handed, I'm leading with the right hand, so the beats and the ends, my right foot will play with my right hand. But on the E's and the A's, my right foot is going to play with my left hand. And that needs a little bit of coordination. So here it goes. So make sure that that left hand, right foot are in perfect sync. For me nowadays, a little bit easier because, as you know, I play open-handed. So every bass drum, if I'm just playing with one hand on the hi-hat, every bass drum I'm playing will be with the left hand. Okay? So you can apply these hand-to-hand 16th grooves to the play-alongs in the book. They're, as I said, they're actually good because they're very slow, so you have plenty of time to play. When you feel a little bit more confident, you can get, if you haven't got this book yet, this one, Groove Essentials 1.0 by Mr. Tommy Igo. In this book, he put 3 play-alongs that you play hand-to-hand. And start very easy with just bass drum on 1 and 3 and snare on 2 and 4. But they are faster than the grooves I have in my play-alongs. But again, if you have that app that slows down or speeds up songs, piece of cake. So let's play the first hand-to-hand 16th note grooves that Mr. Tommy Igo put in his book, which is Group 6 Slow. software where you can apply many variations that I have in the book or your own variations to that groove. And then then the second groove in the book, which is groove 7 slow, the main groove that he suggests is a little bit more syncopated. It's exactly like exercise 16 on page 37. So I'm gonna play the groove from Groove Essentials, groove 7 slow, with exercise 16 in the page 37 in my book, Play the Drums. So, this is it for today. I hope you liked. Take care of your 16th notes. They're very important. If you like this lesson, look at the other lessons in the channel. You might like them too. And if you like them, subscribe to the channel. There's a bell somewhere outside this frame. Click on the bell and you're gonna get notifications every time there's a new video on. Okay? Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.